Good morning, fiction students. I want to just spend a couple minutes walking you through an assignment that you're working on for next week, and that is a literary reflection essay. So I'm going to share screen with you, and we'll start here with the assignment. So I'm often kind of asked, what do you want me to do in this assignment? My main concern in this particular essay that you're writing, the literary reflection assignment, is that you don't try to take on too big of a topic. So if I could give just a couple pieces of advice, and the first would be simply to start with any reading in Unit 1 that you really enjoyed. So it's challenging sometimes to just begin sitting at your computer and starting the writing process. So for me, this is sort of like making a layered cake when I write. I don't come to put all the ingredients and fold them into the batter at once. I have to work through it in stages. And I'd encourage you to just be patient with yourself and to just break down the writing process into a sequence and steps. So here are some ways to get started on the literary reflection assignment. To begin with, as I mentioned, think about a topic that you've enjoyed writing about. Perhaps go back to your discussion board response and use one of these prompts that you've written on already and see where that gets you. So what I've tried to do, and maybe I haven't been clever in setting this up for you, is to get you to think about putting your ideas on paper already and sharing them with others as a way to do your own kind of brainstorming. So let's just kind of start there. So the best thing to do is to just scribble on a piece of paper. You can type it, whatever you'd like to do, and just see what kind of ideas or pattern of ideas come out again and again to you and what you're most interested in. All right, from there, I'd like you to just maybe look at one of these particular topics at the bottom. So I'm scrolling down now, and these are pretty broad topics. You can use any kind of use of humor or magic or fantastical element that you see operating. If you do that, you may want to go back and look at the academic content files from Lafarge or Cardell and see if you can frame this particular use of satire or humor. Or you might, with this topic, always be optimizing. Go back to the video link by Gia Tolentino. And she talks about essentially how old ideas of gender and beauty have been repackaged and put into something as a new way to appeal to women to work on their appearance and to spend money on self-improvement. So in the form of self-care. If you're interested in this topic, it pairs very well with the essay Shrill, and you could certainly find the idea of the rig game into that. So with that as well, we have limitations of beauty as a form of currency or power. So think about particularly Jenny in Nairobi and what the story that Joyce Carol Oates is telling us has to suggest about the worth of beauty. In a sense, I see Jenny as one of the safari animals, one of the exotic sort of things that the predatory class goes after. So, when we think about eating impala, that's said in this particular story. And I always think about who are the predators in this Nairobi world and who are the people like Jenny who are simply what these people feed on and what that means. You can think, of course, about anything in Ngotzi's work. A particular concept will get you more mileage. So I just brought up a couple of concepts here, and you're free to pick up anything that you'd like. So there's a conceptual level, and then I'll just scroll up here to the top. But to get to that conceptual idea, it's really helpful if you pick out a small element. So I put this kind of passage here about smalls. So think about literary elements. How do they get us to understand something thematic in a work? So paying attention to patterns of imagery, repetition of an idea, or building your example around this element will get you more mileage. So a couple other things, you have 2 pages. So remember that the goal is not to summarize the work. The goal is to help us pay attention to something in that work that will elucidate for us a thematic idea that you see operating. Organization-wise, I've given just some ideas of what I'm looking for the opening. Like most openings, it should be catchy. It should move us from a general idea about, let's say, beauty or women's commodification. You could even cite a quote from Negozi or from the Reading Shrill by Lindy West, and then lead us into a thesis. But make it really clear in your opening which work you're focused on. From there, you're going to build on the promised thesis and focus, and you're going to use text support that you integrate and explain. So just think of your quotes like a sandwich. A sandwich needs something to hold it up. So if the quote or details from the text are the meat or veggies on the sandwich, think of the introduction to the quote as one slice of bread and the analysis of what the quote means in relation to the thesis as the other side of the bread. All right, so I hope that kind of helps you visualize. And then the conclusion analyzes and pushes the essay a little bit further. So it may help us to understand why this particular topic's of current relevance to us today. Why should we pay attention to this particular reading? In other words, maybe bring out its universal purpose or its universal message for readers. All right, so a couple other things you'll notice in here. There's a place to put your final essay. And then over here is a literary analysis example. And I'm clicking on this right now. Please do not use anything from this particular essay. It's not on one of the topics we read in Unit 1, and it's from one of my lovely composition students. I just used some paragraphs from Erin's writing to help you to get an idea of what it means to put things together in a cohesive way and to do it economically in 2 paragraphs or so. Sorry, I meant to say 2 pages, so ignore that particular line. And please don't think this is the only way to write a paper or the only way to get started. The reason I picked it was simply that it does stick to, as I mentioned, a promised focus. It does walk the reader through an idea set, and there's some really good reflection of the quotes that are provided. You can also see how the essay, even though I've taken sections out of it, builds and then reaches some kind of conclusion. So I hope these kind of things are helpful to you. Early next week, I'll post some kind of information about how to get feedback on your essay. So I do want everyone to know Kirkwood has a synchronous online writing center. So you can sign up for Zoom appointments and get real-time help with your essay. So I will be posting some information about that. If students in this class are interested in getting together and doing some idea sharing, paper sharing, let me know. I can set up a discussion board for you. All right, well, that's all for today. I'm going to stop sharing, and please email me if you have questions. Have a great day.